with another Wolff Responds. I want to talk to you yet again about the accelerating rush to quote unquote put America back to work, or quote unquote to get the economy going again, phrases like that coming from the president and from leading CEOs. I want to warn you about it. I want to make sure it's understood what is going on here. We have a government and a private sector that failed catastrophically to prepare for this viral pandemic. The companies that make the masks, the ventilators, the tests, the gowns, the beds, the hospitals, they didn't produce what we need. Nor did they import what we need. Nor did they stockpile around the country in proportion to population what we need. They failed. And the government that is supposed to compensate for the failures of private capitalism is so besotted in its support for that private capitalism, so persuaded by the nonsense that what is privately profitable is also socially efficient, and I'm talking about both the Republican and Democratic Party establishments, that the government failed to compensate for the failures of the private capitalist sector. So here we are. Now we've had to have a lockdown because Americans are dying at a scale we've not seen anywhere else, in large part because of those failures. And what is the response? Well, there are efforts to get the testing done. They're late, they're slow, and most of all, they're insufficient. And the same is true of everything else. Beds, ventilators, you name it. And in that situation, not only are there no abject apologies by the leaders of a system so spectacularly failing, but it's worse. There is now a rush for people to go back to work. That's what the reality is beneath the lofty phrases about getting us back in gear and restarting the economy, things like that. Capitalists have discovered an old economic lesson. You can have all the machines in the world and all the latest technology and all the glitziest factories or offices or stores, but they're all worthless. They're items to gather rust and dust unless human beings, workers, are in there using them, applying them, making things happen. So capitalists need workers. The reverse, not so much. Everything those capitalists have, the machines, the buildings, the technology, you know who made them? Not those capitalists, the workers. That's right. So here we go. The capitalists realize they need the workers. But the workers are all at home because they don't want to die. And they don't want to get the infection. And they don't want to infect their wives, their husbands, their children, their elderly, their neighbors, their friends. But the capitalists need profits, and you can only get it if the workers are working. So now the rush is on. Make the workers come back. Plead with them, beg with them. Tell them it's patriotic. Tell them it's their duty. Force them by telling them they won't get their unemployment check anymore, or who knows what they will come up with. But don't be fooled. The failure of the capitalists isn't over. Most of them have done absolutely nothing to this moment to make their workplaces safe. Does the workplace have an ongoing testing office? Because, you know, if you test and you don't have it today, you could have it tomorrow or the next day, thereby risking everybody else. The testing isn't once. The testing has to go on over and over again at every workplace, or else you are at risk. What about the masks? What about the ventilators? What about beds? What about sick leave so that you can be taken care of if you do get sick? What about all the things that a workplace made safe would look like? Has everything been reconfigured so you're at least 6 to 9 feet away from the next person? Have they done all that? Have they taken the steps? And above all, because it's capitalism, have they paid for it? So that when you go back, if you do, you are at least safer than you would have been before. Most capitalists haven't done it. They don't want to do it. They don't want to pay for it. How surprising. But they want you to come back. Who's going to monitor that they keep doing what they would have to do? If the workers don't do it, you're going to rely on them? They've already failed the reliance we placed on them. There are movements all over the United States, little groups of workers here or there, in that store, in that office, in that factory, not willing to go back and risk themselves and their families. There is even talk of a general strike, which is when a whole working class says to the capitalists, no, we will not work under the conditions you're trying to impose on us. It's happened before in history, and it's something all of you, all of us, should be thinking about now. Because if this rush to get us back to work continues, we are being asked to risk our lives to make profits for them. Do you really want to be part of that?